everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today's episode is going to be my second update for my Project Level Up Project Pan. So if you want to see what my progress has been on my level 1 and 2 palettes, and if I'm going to be rolling in a new palette today, and if I am, what that palette may be, well then sit tight. We're going to jump right into it. My name is Marie and I am a beautiful mess. Here on my channel, I like to do a lot of project panning content, eyeshadow content, and really any other kind of makeup content that I can think of. So sit back, relax, and come on a magical makeup journey with me. So like I said, this is going to be my second update for my Project Level Up Project Pan. This project was created by Sophie Alexandra, and I will link her channel in the description box down below. The premise behind this project is that you choose an eyeshadow palette either at random or you handpick it, and you go through the different levels. Level 1, you have to use every eyeshadow once and hit one pan, and so on and so forth throughout the levels. The last time that I did an update for this project was on January 30th. I didn't do one in February because during that update, I was still working on my level 1 palette, but had rolled in my level 2 palette, and I didn't really want to do an update until I had progress. So let's start with the level 1 palette and see where I landed. So my level 1 palette was my ColourPop High Tide palette. Last update, I had hit every shadow in the palette at least once, and I had 2 contenders for hitting pan. Did I meet my goals? I did indeed meet my goals. So that is what the palette is looking like now. And I will go through my uses with you. And as you can see, I have a shiny pan right there. So I will go ahead and put a picture of this palette up so that I don't have to hold it up throughout the entirety of the video. The first shade, called Just a Splash, was a contender for hitting pan in this palette, and I was using this as an inner corner highlight. Last update, I had 9 uses on this shade, and at the end of this level, I am sitting at 15 uses on this shade and still no pan in that. The shade Currents, I had only ended up using it one time, and I hadn't used it since the last update. The shade Free Floatin', I had used 8 times in last month's update, and I only used it one more time in this month's update. So for a total of 9 uses on that shade. The shade Urchin, last time I had 2 uses on it and didn't have any uses on it this time. The shade in the middle of the palette, called Must See, last update I had only used it once and haven't used it again. The shade Flora, last time I had a total of 3 uses on it and I hadn't used it again in this update. Muscle Beach, last update I'd only used one time and I didn't use it again in this update. The shade New Wave, last time I'd only used it once and didn't use it again in this past month. And the final shade, called Lunar, last time I had 5 uses on it, and this past update I'd used it 7 more times, so it took 12 uses to hit pan on it. I was using it as an eyeliner shade. So as you can see, once I used most of the shades in this palette, once I wasn't concentrating on them to hit pan, like I said, it was either going to be Just a Splash that I was going to hit pan on, or Lunar that I was going to hit pan on. So those were the 2 that I was really focusing on. I thought maybe Free Floatin', because I was using that all over the lid in a couple of looks, but really did love this as an eyeliner because it was dark enough for it, but it did give like a hint of blue, and especially when I was doing icy blue looks in January and a little bit in February, it really made a difference in that look. So level 1 completed, but last time I had rolled in a level 2 palette because I wanted to be able to get some progress on a level 2 palette. So let's take a look at that one. For my level 2 palette, the Wheel of Wonder rolled in for me the ColourPop Feelin' Coconutty palette. There are only 4 shades in this eyeshadow palette, and I'll see if I can pop in a picture of what this palette was looking like at the beginning of level 2, because I don't want to spoil it for you guys. This is what the palette is looking like today. So as you can see, I do have 2 pans in here. So level 2, did I use the other 2 shades twice? Well, let's take a look at the usage. So for my level 2 palette, I had to use each shade twice and have 2 pans. So the first shade in the palette, called Cocoa Wild, I ended up using this 20 times. And this was one of the shades that I decided that I wanted to hit pan on. I was using this as an inner corner highlight as well as a brow bone highlight. The next shade in the palette is called Vacay, and I ended up using this shade 3 times. The third shade in the palette is called Palm Tree, and I ended up using this twice. And the fourth shade in the palette, called Nuts for You, I ended up using 6 times. And ended up hitting pan in 6 uses. Now this one I was using as an eyeliner. I was really trying not to focus my brush, but really like scrape against it, but I use an angle brush for my eyeliner, and I feel like I wasn't really drilling down, but just naturally when you're using an eyeshadow shade as an eyeliner, I feel like concentrating in the same spot just happens. Was really surprised that it only took me 6 uses to hit pan in this one, but yet it took me 20 in this one. And that just goes to show you this one's a little bit flakier of a shade, whereas this one is more matte. I really expected to hit pan in Cocoa Wild a lot sooner than I did. Used every shade in the palette at least twice and hit 2 pans. So guess what? We're gonna be rolling in a palette for level 3. So let's see what the Wheel of Wonder has in store for us. As always, I have all of my eyeshadows put into my Tiny Decisions app, also called my Wheel of Wonder. So let me pop that screen recording up now. All of my eyeshadow palettes are in the Wheel of Wonder, so let's spin the wheel and see what it has in store for us. I'm nervous, I'm nervous, I'm nervous. What's gonna be our level 3 palettes? Too Faced the Natural Nudes. I think this was my level 4 palette last year. Let me go pull it and see what it ends up being. So this is the palette that I was working on last year. I believe this had to have been my level 2 palette because there's 2 pans in this palette. So that is what it's looking like right now. Let me pull this back so you can see a little bit better. So as you can see, there are 2 pans in this palette. There's a pan in the shade Swan, as well as a pan in the shade Truffle. So this had to be my level 2 palette for last year. But as you can see, this palette is well used. This is actually a really great one for a level 3 palette, one that I've worked on before. From what I remember, it was during the same time of year that I ended up rolling this in. I anticipate that I'm really going to love using this for springtime. This shade right here, I had ended up digging my nail into it. So last time I had said that this was not eligible for a shade to hit pan, and I'm gonna end up saying that again because I think that's going to end up being the very last pan that I hit in this palette. But all of the other shades are eligible to hit pan in. And as you can see, I do have some dips going. So for a level 3, I have to hit 3 new pans. So in taking a look at this palette, I think Glistening Snow is gonna be a contender for that. I think the shade Seashell is gonna end up being a contender for that. But as for the third, I just dug my nail in again. Oh. Not too bad, right? Not too bad. So that's not gonna be a contender. I gotta stop digging my nails into my palettes. But as for the third shade, I'm going to have to see with use what I'm drawn to. But this is gonna be the level 3 palette, ladies and gentlemen. How long is it gonna take me to get through this level 3 palette? Time will tell, but what I want to do is at least give you a quick update every month of where I'm sitting with this palette instead of waiting until I've finished the level. But we'll see how the filming schedule goes, because as it stands right now, due to circumstances beyond my control, I'm a little bit late with a lot of my updates. So bear with me, they are coming. Put it in the comments down below how long you think it's gonna take me to get through this level 3 palette. But that's everything that I have for you today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. You know I always love when you do. Don't forget, if you like what you see, to hit that like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell. It lets YouTube know that you like my content and that other people with the same interests as you will like my content too. Thanks again, and we'll catch you in the next one. Bye, everybody.